Y'all, they done did it now. You couldn't make this up if you wanted to. This story gets better and better. Let's pay attention to this date, February 29th. The Nikon Coolpix P1000 and the P900 are being discontinued, okay, on February 29th. But why would they be discontinued? Maybe because they just signed a deal with NASA. NASA and Nikon recently signed a Space Act agreement, but that outlines how they will work together to develop a handheld camera that can operate in the harsh lunar environment for use beginning with Artemis 3. Artemis 3? NASA? Well, what is Artemis 3? Artemis 3 is planning to be the first crewed moon landing mission of the Artemis program and the first crewed flight of the Starship lander. That is why they discontinued the P900 and P1000 Nikon cameras, because they just signed a deal with NASA on the same day. And for everybody who comes on here and says, oh, well, are they going to discontinue telescopes too? How? Do you have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to connect technology to a telescope so you can see that far? However, with the P1000 and 900 camera, you can instantly take pictures and videos flawlessly and post them on TikTok, therefore waking up everybody to the truth of flat Earth. Enjoy. Thanks.
So you still think the Earth is round, right? Like they told you when you got indoctrinated at your slave consumer indoctrination camp public school, right? But have you ever really looked at these types of details before on your own without listening to what somebody is telling you? Because I'm here to tell you, when you start to think outside of the box just for a second, when you learn that we live in a box, in a matrix, when you learn that you are told everything for a reason and you're supposed to just believe it, kind of like Santa Claus. You learn that water is not curving in a ball. You learn that this ocean is not curving. Nowhere can they show you a curvature of the ocean. To put it simply, just think about sea level. What does that mean? That means that it's level at a specific height. That means if you are 100 feet above sea level, there's one height for sea level. You're 100 feet above that. Sea level isn't curving always, because then it wouldn't be level. It wouldn't make any sense. It's not called sea curvature. It's called sea level. And that's because it's at one specific height. And it stays at that height all the way across the plane. If it was changing and curving, there would never be anything so-called sea level. It would always be changing and curving with the earth like a ball. You can't measure the exact height of the part of the ball that's curving all the way in a circle. It's always curving. There isn't a measurable spot to it. But if you have a flat brick, you can measure the height of that from whatever distance you want to. And again, just remember, a level uses water in it because water always will level out. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this water that is wrapped around this ball and all this gravity is apparently pulling this water in. But you learn that sea level doesn't make sense on a round earth. So until we have a logical explanation for this, I have to pick a side, and I'm going to have to go against this here.
It's really draining. It's emotionally, physically, and spiritually exhausting.
What is the heliocentric theory?
According to Wikipedia, heliocentrism is a superseded astronomical model in which the Earth and planets revolve around the Sun at the center of the universe.
What? What does superseded mean?
Here's the definition of supersede. Take the place of, a person or thing previously in authority or use, supplant.
So the heliocentric model has been superseded?
According to Wikipedia, heliocentrism is a superseded astronomical model in which the Earth and planets revolve around the Sun at the center of the universe. Historically, heliocentrism was opposed to geocentrism, which placed the Earth at the center.
Wait. What does it mean if something's been superseded?
According to Cambridge Dictionary, Cambridge University Press, Sid, to replace something, especially something older or more old-fashioned. Most of the old road has been superseded by the great interstate highways. Synonyms: replace.
Oh, wow. Well, there you have it. The heliocentric model has been superseded.
I couldn't possibly fathom why you would ever call this, boop, an anal lemma. Could you? And no matter how many times you ask me to stop, I'm never gonna stop reminding you that no matter where you are on the earth, the stars rotate in the same direction. The only thing that changes is your perspective of it and your camera, the angle you choose. I'm not gonna stop, ever. There is no magic line that you cross to where those stars suddenly go the other way, okay? If you're here, it's going the same way. If you're here, it's going the same way. If you're here, it doesn't matter how far down you go. So get that out of your head. Somewhere at the equator, the stars start spinning in a different direction. Man, lay off the peyote. Did they outlaw that shit back in the 1800s? And just for argument's sake, let's say there is a magic line that you cross and the stars go opposite ways. Here, you jump across here, it's going this way. You jump across here, it's going this way. Let's say that's true. It doesn't prove a ball because that wouldn't work on a ball. It's still the same either way. Wilson, you gotta stop smiling at me. This stupid thing!
Flames don't cast shadows, but it seems that the graphics department at SpaceX did not know.
You mean to tell me that everyone's in on it? All the countries are in on it? If NASA's lying, then everyone's in on it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I can prove it. I mean, just look at the United Nations flag. The United Nations is a diplomatic group of 193 countries meant to maintain peace all over the world. That's what it's meant for. And it's 193 countries working together to keep the world safe and keep the world peaceful and do all this amazing stuff for the world that we live in, the round globe world that they tell us and they brainwash us into believing. But they themselves have a flat earth map, the actual exact copy of one of the flat earth maps, a literal exact copy, on their flag. Why on earth would they do that? Why would they have an exact copy of a flat earth map on their flag if they thought the world was a globe? They wouldn't. What they do though is tell us the truth in the open. That is what they do. We are being deceived. We're being deceived, and I'll leave you with this quote. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. Let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction.
They put the truth about the firmament right in our face. Watch this. What are they trying to tell y'all?
This is impossible! Ed was right! The sky is falling! Thank you very much. So now what?
I'm afraid we may just find out, Eddie.
God's word tells us in Job chapter 37, verse 18, Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong and as a molten looking glass? Which is referring to God's firmament. Is that why Hillary always talked about breaking that glass ceiling?
Although we weren't able to shatter that hardest glass
glass ceiling this time, thanks to you. It's got about 18 million cracks.
Or remember that time Bill Nye slipped up and said we can't leave the Earth?
One thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go.
Guys, they know the truth, and they're going to continue to put it right in our face.
Just in case you weren't aware, NASA is telling everyone that we are on a spinning water ball, spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, chasing the sun at 650 times the speed of sound, and traveling 4.4 billion miles every single year since the beginning of time, I guess. Now, the issue I have with this is, how does Polaris the North Star stay fixated in the exact same spot in the night sky 24/7, 365 days of the year? How is it that the stars around Polaris all do perfect circles and realign in the exact location every 365 days? If we're really doing this like NASA claims, you should see the stars do all sorts of crazy patterns, not perfect circles. The North Star shouldn't stay fixed and stationary. The stars should be all over the place. You guys remember the Georgia Guidestones, the New World Order's 10 Commandments written in 8 different languages? The first one saying maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Well, yeah, they drilled a hole in the Guidestones, and if you look through it, you can see Polaris fixed in the night sky 24/7, 365 days of the year. This is exactly how these people laugh at you and tell you the truth at the same time. Kind of like how they put the real truth in plain sight in the United Nations logo. This world is certainly not what you've been indoctrinated to believe it is, and the real truth to everything is found within. Peace and love.
Today, I'm going to show you a simple science experiment that you can try at home to learn about density. Start by taking an empty glass and tip in some water and food colouring. Then add some syrup or treacle. And I'm going to add a little bit more water to make the layer a bit thicker. Then finally, fill the glass up with some oil and leave it to settle for about 15 minutes. These liquids separate out into different layers because they're different densities and they don't mix. The syrup has the highest density, so it sits on the bottom, and the oil, which has the lowest density, rises to the top. Try dropping different objects in to see what happens. If we drop this metal nut in, which is really dense, you can see it sinks right to the bottom. But if I take this grape and drop it in, it sinks through the oil and water, but sits on the syrup. This is because the syrup is denser than the grape. Pretty cool, huh? Now if I take this plastic bottle top and drop it in, it slowly sinks through the oil and sits on the water. And finally, if I take this piece of sponge and drop it in, it sits on top.
It is a scientific fact, verified by undisputable evidence, that when objects are placed in mediums with less density, they sink, and when placed in mediums with higher density, they rise or float. For example, a rock in water will sink because the object's density is greater than the water's density, as will a ship's anchor. Likewise, helium-filled balloons rise because they are lighter than the air. Submarines float on the ocean when their ballast tanks are empty and contain air, and they sink when their ballast tanks begin to be filled with water. This is how they manipulate their depth in the ocean, by adjusting the ratio of air and water in the tanks. This is proven by filling a balloon with 50% air and 50% helium. As helium is lighter than air and the ratios are even, the balloon remains fixed in the air without rising or falling. Ultimately, Newton's gravity erased the common sense of up and down, and in its place normalized the preposterous idea that this is possible. And this. And that meanwhile, in Australia, this is nonsensical, pseudo-scientific mockery and nothing more than an invention to justify the spinning spherical Earth hoax.
This blows my mind. He says, why doesn't the Gleason have a scale on it? Which it does have a scale on it. And he says, why does that scale have so much distortion? Wait, if distortion is your problem, then you don't believe in any map ever created. Here's the Globe Steel Man on why there's distortion on every map. It says, it's physically impossible to take the surface of a sphere and accurately represent it on a flat plane without distorting it in some way. But I call BS already, because let's talk about the real reason why there's so much distortion on every map ever. Well, it's because all maps were created the same way. By travel, by land, by sea, by air, and there were approximate distances in that travel, and they had to come up with what exact shape these continents would be. That's why the continents have changed over the years. The shape of them, the size comparison from one continent to the other, and so on and so forth. It's because they traveled these distances and had to kind of map out from their mind's perspective of what this continent would look like from a really, really high above ground view. That's why all maps are different. That's why all scales are not perfectly accurate. It's because you can't physically make a perfectly accurate map just by traveling. And remember, when you travel by land, by sea, or by air, you can only experience the human eye's perspective of a flat topographical plane. Then you take all of that data and you then wrap it around this ball, right? I'm helping you out here, trust me. If you're going to use distortions as your way of throwing a map out, well, then you don't believe in any maps ever. And it's no secret that Google Earth was created the same way, because once you get to a certain height, like weather balloon height, everything turns into an animation. Look at this. Lost it. Now it's just a cartoon. And that's how you get this silly ball.
This is what it's like flying along at 37,000 feet over the North Atlantic Ocean, doing 650 miles an hour.
It's crazy nobody has ever seen a satellite in real life. When you Google images of them, they are all CGI.
Okay, so I'm sitting here and I'm watching this video. Go look this up. If it's a very interesting video. It's a little girl and she is talking about and starts drawing this kind of flat earth model. So when it's complete, this is what it looks like. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and I'm like, hold on. This looks an awful lot like this. This is the temple. What? And a lot of ancient structures that you see resembles this right here. Did they make their buildings to resemble what the Earth actually looks like?
The flat Earth map dates back over 1,000 years. This map is credited to being created by a Persian astronomer. His name was Al-Biruni and he lived between 973 AD to 1048 AD. It's the official map of the United Nations and also the United States Geological Survey. It used to be present in many places before the creation of NASA and the Antarctic Treaty in 1959. Here you see it with Admiral Byrd. This map has been restored by Dmitry from Russia with suggestions of mine, Heliocentrism. Known by my YouTube channel Flat Earth Banjo, I asked Dmitry to include the Bermuda Triangle and Point Nemo, a place deep in the Pacific where NASA buries rockets. Then Robert Tozzi, a professional mapmaker, came along and enhanced the map even more. There are many people now selling this map online, but if you could order it from my online store, I would greatly appreciate it. Visit my online store now and order one of the items. I humbly thank you.